Welcome back, one and all. We are here once again. Y'all know what it is by now. It's Dr. E's Open Seminars. We are Open Seminar number 55 now. So we're 55 seminars in. That puts us 3 seminars past our 1 year mark. So we're 3 seminars into our new year. This is year 2 of our Open Seminars. You all know what it is by now. We're here every single Monday. Same time, same place, 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST, YouTube live every single Monday. And then the edited version of these seminars come out every single Saturday, where you catch our cinemascapes and all the information that scrolls along there. Meanwhile, while you're there, do your signups and your subscriptions, hit the buttons, do the likes, do your ting, let people know, you know what I'm saying, running around the street, screaming all about that good looking Arab you talked about and that fine Bangladeshi on the other side of the screen. Yo, what's up though? How you doing, cutie? Anyway, so the point is, but that's cool. I could do that. I could do that. But the point, wallahi, it is legally permissible. Wallah, it's permissible.
Permissible. We did it in front of the Imam.
In front of Imam,
in the masjid, it's okay.
He give me permission. Wallah, it is okay.
To sexually harass me.
Listen, Pepe Le Pew taught me a few things. But in any case, so.
I am Pepe Le Pew, your lover. So impetuous, but nice. You know, it is not just a case of physical attraction. I admire her mind, too.
We're here every single week, 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST.
Is very disturbing.
I know, we'll get into that in a second. And yeah, y'all know what it is by now. We bring you that expertise. Well, no, it's the education for a new generation, but it's kind of expertise you usually have to pay through the nose for, sitting those dry ass lecture theaters with those crusty old white men. But we kick you that knowledge a different way, you know what I'm saying? We bring you that expertise, but we bring you that real-ish, that idealist-ish, the kind of education you thought you were gonna get when you went in the first place and got mad disappointed about all the logic seminars that y'all got going on. But in any case, and as per usual, I'm your boy, Dr. E, director, lead tutor at TBT, philosopher extraordinary, all those wonderful things right there. That's your girl, Tanzi. Great dictator, obviously. Vote for her in the upcoming dictator elections with her wonderful 3 platforms. Yo, remind us of your platforms real quick.
Take all the wealth and make it equal.
That's number 1.
Put everyone else before yourself.
That's number 2.
And if you do not comply, you die.
That's hey.
The most important one.
Gaddafi would be proud. But the point is, great dictator elections.
Uncle.
And of course, yo, you got to stop calling him uncle. And of course, we got Missy in the background doing all our editing. So when you catch our Saturday edited version, that's Missy doing the background. Shout out, Missy, love you. And Karine in the background doing all of our chats. So anybody got any questions or what have you, I can direct that towards Karine. She'll hit you up, providing all our information, all the links and the background information, because it's a real seminar. We real educate mob. You know what I'm saying? This is a real thing. Real PhD over here, real teacher, real PhD over there. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Almost. But the point
Can
is,
I say something about your accent? I like the way British people say the word cinema.
Cinema?
Cinema. Because you call it the cinema.
It is the cinema.
The cinema.
As opposed to, wait, what are you saying?
Cinema.
Cinema.
Cinema. We don't put the emphasis on the ma the way you guys do.
All right,
like,
so for you, it's like the A is just like the end of an M. I like really saying the A, cinema.
Well, first of all, I don't say cinema because I say movie theater because no one uses the word cinema.
Yeah, we don't use movie theater.
Yeah, we say movie theater, but
we don't say movies.
You don't say movies?
No, we don't really. We say movies, but if you ask people, like the go-to in the UK is like films.
Oh, film.
Film. We say film.
You're pronouncing incorrectly. Film. Yeah.
Film. Yeah, no, we say film. We don't really say movies. Like people say movies. I'm saying, but it's not that they don't say it. They say it, but like, it's like saying cell phone. It would be weird. Nobody says cell phone over here.
Oh, right, because you guys say mobile.
It's a mobile.
It's a mobile, yeah.
Because it's a mobile phone. It's a mobile.
Bring me on the mobile.
Oh my gosh.
No, but every other word is wrong. I mean, vest. No. No. Pants. No. And then it gets to cars. Sedan, hood, fender, freeway, interstate, sidewalk. Trunk. Trunk is on the front of an elephant, not the back of a saloon car, but they have no idea. Yeah. Gas. They call a liquid gas. mental.
Wait, I'm trying to get the British accent right.
Yo, nah,
Can
go
we
ahead.
just
I'm
talk
ducking back
about a
in.
show? Wait. Before we get into anything, can we just talk about a show I've been watching that's British that I'm very excited about?
What's the show you've been watching that's British that we need to talk about?
Lady Parts. We Are Lady Parts.
What the fudge is Lady Parts?
All right. So it's this new show. I paid for a subscription to some thing so that I could watch this show. I got so excited when I read about it. I read about it twice and then I was like, I have to watch this. So it's a British TV show, and Channel 4 right there, did it. And it's about 4 or 5 Muslim women who are in a punk band.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, it's the best show. So all right, there's a South Asian one who's a hijabi, and like, so she's like a student, like a PhD student. You know, she's really nerdy. She's trying to get married immediately, and like she's on the hunt for like a husband. You know how like, yeah. So like boys are coming to the house and like sitting with her family, and like, oh my god, it's so funny because she wears like, she's very like, think of like the quintessential British Muslim good girl.
Yeah, I'm with you.
She's
Okay.
that. So she wears pastel colors and she wears her hijab that matches, you know, her outfit. And I'm in school and I just want to get married. And, you know, I would never go on a date with a guy. He would have to come with his parents to my parents' house and all of the whole thing. So, and it's funny because her mom is like, why don't you go like have sex? Go have sex. Like her mother doesn't wear hijab, nothing. This girl wears hijab. Her mother doesn't wear hijab. So it's really interesting. Her mom is like more free, more loose than her. A boy comes to the house that's really cute. Her mom is like, hey, cutie. Like, I love her mom. Because her mom grew up in the UK and she's like from that older generation that's like less, you know.
So this is a US show or UK show?
It's a British show. It's a British show. I love this show. So that's one of the main characters. She's basically the main character. And so she gets like dragged into like this punk band because she plays guitar. It's really good. So then the punk band is, all right, Syra is the lead singer. Syra is like a butchy South Asian Muslim girl who doesn't wear hijab, works in a halal butcher shop. Is a butcher. I want to be a butcher now because I love her. And this is a job I never thought about doing, but I'm like, hey, there's a halal butcher not far from me. I'm like, I should go apply. So she works in the halal butcher shop. I think it's her family that owns it. And she's the lead singer, and she's like, I really see myself in her. She's like butchy and like mean. So there's Syra. Oh, Mumtaz. Mumtaz is my favorite. Mumtaz is in full niqab with like combat boots and like lacy gloves and like works in.
All right, but you're gonna have to find some way of looping this. Why are we talking about this?
I just want to talk about it. I'm giving people a recommendation.
Oh, this is a recommendation.
Watch it. It's so
this
good.
is a hot take. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So, do you have any hobbies aside from worship?
Worship is not a hobby.
Yes. No, of course. Duh.
I like it because, so the reason I'm talking about this, I like it because it shows brown Muslim women as normal human beings. Like we're normal human beings, you know, because I get that a lot from people. People will find out, you know, people don't know that I'm from Bangladesh. They think they make all kinds of assumptions about me. But then when they find out, everyone is always blown away, and they're like, and then people have actually said to me, but I've never met a Bangladeshi like you. Like, you're so normal. And I take offense to that because
I would take offense to that.
That's rude.
And here's what I agree with you. I agree with you, right?
And the thing is, like, we're never shown as normal human beings. But I like this show because it shows, you know, Muslim women as normal human beings.
As like yeah, no, I'm with you. I understand what that means. Like, I get what you're trying to say, but it's always interesting to me what that means, right? So like when we're talking about the representation of particular races in Western nations and trying to quote unquote normalize them, it's what it takes or what you have to do in order to normalize them, right? So if they have to in some way, shape or form be engaged in popular culture, they have to be engaged in this kind of like for example, if it were the case that a person happened to be a Muslim and just devout, that would be in and of itself abnormal. You see what I'm saying? Like there are a bunch of ideological precepts or presuppositions that are built into what we're calling normality.
Right. So this is the other thing I love about this show. They actually show the girls praying together in between like their practice. Like, so they're over here like in a punk band screaming into a mic about like wanting to honor kill their sister, but like then they're taking a break to pray. And I really appreciate that because I feel like this is the one show that understands me. I was never in a punk band and I'm not a big fan of punk music, but now I am because I like them. I only like them. It's only them.
I'm not going to say never, but I'm very unlikely to ever be a fan of punk. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Punk never did anything for me. I'm just like, all right.
So.
But anyway, tangent over. Go ahead.
I love that the tangent turns up on a day where we've got lessons from literature seminar. You had a whole tangential episode sitting there staring into the sky.
Do you know what a tangent is? It happens randomly. You can't plan it. That's why it's a tangent. If you plan your tangents, then you would plan your tangents. You're that person.
It's not. Wait, hold on. Going off on a tangent isn't necessarily spontaneous.
You would plan it because you plan everything. You plan your life like 30 years in advance. So
I do plan everything.
Of course.
And that's
I
how
don't do that. I plan.
That's
nothing.
how.
What am I doing tomorrow? I don't know. What am I eating for dinner? No clue. You see? No planning.
How's that working out for you?
I'm probably gonna starve tonight.
I'm just saying.
Oh,
I'm just saying. No, I do plan everything. Actually, now that we're on this subject, so look, I want us to get to what it is that we're talking about, but there's a context in which to talk about, right? So.
Well, I feel like this connects to that.
What does the over planning, the tangents, or the South Asian rock band?
The show. I brought up the show because we're gonna be talking about Fanon and the white gaze and being in relationship with white people and white.
Not the white gaze, but the white gaze.
But it has. Oh yeah, the gaze.
Not the white homosexuals.
The gaze.
The gaze.
Yeah.
No, because you said the white gaze, and I was like, wait a minute, someone's gonna hear that wrong. No, not the white gaze. That's not what we mean. There's nothing wrong with it. That's not what we're talking about.
Right. No, we love the white gaze. We love all the gays.
It's Pride Month. Yo, Pride Month.
Is it?
I think so.
Oh, I didn't
I think it is here.
Oh, what's going on in life right now?
I don't know if it is in the US, but I'm pretty sure it is here.
But that's why I brought up the show, because so much of what the Fanon chapters are about are essentially whiteness and the way whiteness looks at anything not white.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And how we're constantly like, even me liking this show because it shows us as human. But I know we're human. We know we're human. But who are we showing? We're showing them that look, we're normal.
Yeah.
Because them, the thing is, it's not only white people. It's like, it's literally everybody. Like, I've had Latinos say this to me. I've had Black people say this to me. I've had, but because society is so much, it's so like structured by whiteness that everyone begins to take on this gaze of other people.
Right, because what we're really talking about are the ideological precepts of kind of like Western civilization. That's what we're really talking about. Yeah. It's what's called whiteness as a distraction. It's what's called whatever else you want to call it as a distraction. And I know we've said this a million times before. We don't need to repeat it a billion times over, but we know what we mean when we say whiteness. We're not talking about anything stupid. In fact, there's a quote from Fanon that I want to mention, but maybe I shouldn't mention it right now. We'll talk about it in a bit, because he makes this point about how like stupid a person could be that you could think that I'm having a conversation here about the amount of melanin contained in someone's epidermis. I'm not talking about the melanin in your skin, fam. It's a much more complicated issue than that. It doesn't work like that. Right. So, I mean, of course, that plays a part in it, what have you, in the psychology and whatever, but that's not what we're talking about. Nevertheless, so today, it is a lessons from literature session. So, as per usual, once every month, we got one session that's dedicated to a particular text that we're going to read and a particular kind of like interpretation of that text that we feel like would be beneficial. Usually we tend to go for texts that fall outside of the standard curriculum, but in this particular instance, Frantz Fanon's Black Skin, White Masks is not an abnormal text to see in, say, a university setting in the UK. I'm relatively sure it'll be the same thing in the United States. Nevertheless...
No, we don't read this.
Oh my God.
At least I'll say I've never read it in the university setting. Maybe in an ethnic studies course you would. Wasn't an ethnic studies major, although I was a Black history major. It was African and African American history and literature, and we never read Fanon.
You did Wait, you did Black history or Black literature, and you never read Frantz Fanon?
Yep.
Right.
Never even discussed him.
Right.
I came to Fanon on my. Well, actually, somebody told me about Fanon when I was in high school. I had a teacher who was French. He was Black from Martinique.
Right.
He grew up in France, in Paris. So he knew Fanon, and he told me, he said, "You will love Fanon. Read him."
Of course.
So when I read him, and I was like, "I love Fanon." You're right.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
All right. So the point is, the conversation has been for the last 2 or 3 weeks for our lessons for literature. We've been focused on Frantz Fanon's Black Skin, White Masks. It isn't an uncommon text to see in a UK university, but nevertheless, even though that's the case, it's often that we don't get to spend too much time on it. We don't get to kind of delve into the ins and outs of it. And one of the main things that I want to talk about today is whether or not it's applicable to contemporary society, because for a bunch of people it just doesn't apply in any way, shape or form. The guy's talking about a bygone era that isn't the case anymore. So we'll talk about that in a second. But the point is, to pick up where we left off the last time we had a conversation about Frantz Fanon, which was that we finished chapter 1, so now we're on to chapters 2 and 3, which I want us to kind of tackle at the same time, because they're two sides of the same coin, really, right? So he's talking about what's the titles of those two chapters? I've forgotten the exact titles.
The Woman of Color and the White Man is chapter 2.
There you go.
Chapter 3 is The Man of Color and the White Woman.
Yo, someone did her research though.
I read.
Check you out. You go, girl. You literate? Oh my God. No, you show off that literacy.
Stop talking.
I know words. The point.
I don't like that.
Why? I feel like. Yeah, but I feel like I can win a presidency like that.
I can't stand you. I hate you. Stop talking.
What? I could. I really could. I feel like
No,
I really could.
You could not.
I know words. I know big words.
Remember when he said bigly?
Bigly.
Bigly.
Bigly. We're gonna win. We're gonna win.
We're gonna win bigly.
Bigly. Okay, bigly.
Big league.
Big league.
Big league.
Beat her, big league.
Big league. Big league.
And I think we're going to make it big league.
Big league. Big league. And that's what's happened. Big league.
Big league.
Big league. And we're going to win big league.
Yeah. Big league. Big league.
Never seen a big so big. It's bigly, Bill. Go ahead. It's bigly. No, right. So the point is, we got into chapters 2 and 3. So the woman of color and the white man, and the man of color and the white woman. So it's two sides of the same coin. And what he's dealing with is, what the chapters are entitled. It's his analysis of. Well, let's be really specific here, because I want to break this down first before we get into kind of like deep into the chapters themselves. So he's particularly talking about not just, like we said a moment ago, the fact of having a particular kind of like skin tone and then being attracted to someone of a different skin tone. It's not that. He is talking about a psychological complex, right? So as we've said a million times before, or in case anybody has forgotten, Frantz Fanon, psychiatrist, philosopher, call him whatever you want to call him, born in Martinique, ends up in the French army, ends up in Algeria, seeing patients from the Algerian War of Independence.
Well, he got involved in the war.
He eventually then gets involved in the war.
No, because he went to Algeria specifically to get involved, because he met Algerian students when he was in France, who were, because the Algerian movement for independence was huge in France among people who went there. Algerians who were living in France, many of them students. So he came across them, and they had a chapter, the FMLA, I think it was. I forgot the FNLA, Front National, something Liberation Algerian, something like that.
Yeah, that would be it.
They had people in Paris, and he met them, and he went to Algeria to be a part of the movement for liberation.
Yeah, I mean, his work was resigned to, or was restricted to, large psychotherapy initially. In any case, he became actively involved at a stage. I mean, started actually fighting and actually getting directly involved and what have you. But he spent a lot of time treating prisoners of war, treating victims of torture, treating victims of trauma, whatever else, just doing psychotherapy for those people. And in the course of doing that, developed his racial theories. So in the first instance, let's be absolutely clear that what we're talking about first and foremost is a psychological complex, not a skin tone issue. We're not talking about melanin. That's one. Two, we've said on numerous previous occasions, and I'm really, really bored of repeating it, but we've said on numerous previous occasions that when we talk about whiteness, we're not talking about, again, about melanin content, and we're not talking about a particular race, especially insofar as neither one of us is subscribed to the idea of fixed races. That's just not something we think exists anyway. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about an ideological point of view. That's to say, a set of beliefs, a set of principles, a set of ideals that form the way you look at, the way you navigate, and the way you interpret the world, right? The matrix of meaning in and around your world, all that kind of stuff.
That doesn't mean that race is not, of course, because race is social. So there is, your skin color does make a difference.
Makes an incredible difference
into your life, but what he's talking about is the psychological and
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, and how that plays out in life, of course.
Yeah,
because he's not oblivious to the fact that it makes, I mean, that's the point, the thing that he cites as the point of his realization is that moment when a young French girl looks across the street and pulls her mother's sleeve and says, mommy, look. You know what I'm saying? And then, like, because she's terrified. I'm like, all right, cool. And then for him, he's like, okay, but I subscribe to being French. For me, I was a Frenchman. Okay, granted, I'm a Frenchman with black skin, but I'm a Frenchman. It's not a big deal. And then to realize that, no, you're never going to be a Frenchman in the eyes of white French people. That's just what that is.
Yeah.
So it's that primarily that we're talking about. Now,
redheads used to make me cry. The first time I seen a redhead, because they're so pale, gingers, I was so afraid of gingers, that I cried when I was little.
You know you are Cartman, don't you? You know you're Cartman.
I cried. I didn't. I was scared. It was in the store, and I was like 2 years old. But I remember this because it was traumatizing for me. And my mom was like, "Oh my God!" Like, she was so embarrassed.
But you understand, like, you are Cartman.
Yeah.
Mrs. Cartman, we have had it with your son's behavior. Okay, little Billy Turner is now being treated at the hospital.
Eric, why would you do such a thing?
I'm sorry I handcuffed Billy Turner's ankle to the school flagpole.
You know that's not the point.
Okay, I'm sorry I handcuffed Billy Turner's ankle to a flagpole and then gave him a hacksaw. And then told him I had poisoned his lunch milk and that the only way he could get to the antidote in time would be to saw through his leg.
That's very naughty, Eric.
Well, he called me chubby.
But the point is, look, I want us to address the obvious thing first before we get into kind of the actual content of the chapters, which is that he is... I know we're talking about race and race being a social construct and not a thing about melanin and whatever else, but he is very, very, very explicitly talking about the nature of relations between black women and white men, and then black men and white women. And he's talking about obviously he's talking about interracial relationships. And given that, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but shockingly enough, neither one of us are either black or white. It's weird. I don't know if you noticed that.
There's other people in the world.
Wait, there are?
Shocking I know.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know if I should tell this story. Should we go into story time right here? Because there are some places in the world where people don't know that there's anything other than black and white. Like, that's it.
Oh yeah, there are places like that.
So I'm not going to say too much, but like, I don't know if I've told this story before about the Afro.
Oh God.
Did I tell this story? Do we need to do this? Should we do this on story time?
The story is ridiculous.
Let's do this. Let's just take 2 seconds of story time so we can understand the context here, right? So no, we understand. You ain't black or white. I'm not black or white. It happens that we're from different races, but nevertheless, insofar as there are races, in any case, when I moved to where I moved to a place a little while ago. Let's not give away like locations, but I moved to a place a little while ago, quite a little sleepy town in the UK.
A terrible place.
Cool. Sleepy little town in the UK. Fine, no big deal. So I moved there, nice little place, cool, I'm comfy, it's whatever. I'm there young. So I must have been like 17, something like that. Cool. When I get there, like when I first arrived, right? I'm not making friends or nothing like that. I'm busy with work. I got mad things to do. Like I ain't trying to kind of like, that's not what I'm here for. So cool. But I'm out playing basketball at the end of every school day. one day this white kid comes up to me trying to make friends. Now, bear in mind, I'm the only kid in the school. Well, I'm one of like 3 or 4 kids in the school that ain't white. And one of them is my brother. So I'm like, all right. True, though. No, but that's true. It's facts. But the point is, so this kid walks up to me at one point. He's like, yo, I heard you from South London, man. I'm like, yeah. Yo, so you ever shot anybody? Like, bro.
There's no guns in the UK, stupid.
Bro, even if I had, you think I'm telling you?
Right.
You think the first thing I wanted to do was come down to this place and tell you, hey,
well,
guess what I did in London?
You stab.
We don't shoot, we stab.
I stab. You do. Which is still inexplicable to me because Peckham is a nice middle class neighborhood and I don't know why anyone's mad. But anyway.
So bad. But okay, so I'm like, no, homie, no, I didn't shoot nobody. He goes, you ever held a gun? I didn't, like, no, homie, I didn't do none of that. Cool. So then at this stage, I had just started shaving my head, right? So like it wasn't shave, but it was pretty low cut. So he looks over to me at one point and he says, yo, I got a question for you though. I hope you don't take it the wrong way. I was like, nah, man, by all means, why don't you ask away, man? He's like, how come you don't grow an afro, man? And I'm like, bruh, I can't grow an afro. And then my man genuinely, with full intention, with full sincerity, looks me dead in the eye and he says, hey, man, hey, don't say that about yourself. Of course you can, man. Of course you can. I'm like, homie, no, that's not what I meant. It's not an insecurity issue. I'm not worried about my blackness. That's not what that is. I'm an Arab, bro. Yeah. Like, I'm a particular kind of Arab too. Yeah. Like never mind. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Never mind. So the point is, in this place, there really was, for him, there was, if you ain't white, you black. That's it. That's the only, and if you're white, well, you should be obviously white. So if you look,
that was also something in the UK back in the day where everybody, South Asians were black people were black, like everybody was black. Yeah. And
they had to invent racial derogatory terms for them, like develop them over the course of time for them to identify a particular racial group they wanted to be derogatory towards in a specific way. So in case anybody hadn't noticed, obviously, like I said beforehand, neither one of us are white or black. That much is the case. So there's going to be a question as to whether or not we're the most appropriate people to have this conversation.
Right?
I don't know if we should be saying that, but yes.
Oh, is that really a slur?
It is a slur. Well, I'm
is
one,
it,
so
like,
apparently
terrible?
I don't know. It happens all the time, so I don't know. I know some people are sensitive about it. But I've had it thrown at me on a regular occasion, so I don't know what to say.
I don't mind. I'll take it. I'm packy.
I mean, that's what they call me.
I already know what I'm gonna say if a white person in the UK ever calls me a packy.
What?
No, brother, you're confused. Not Pakistan, Bangladesh. It's different place, different.
Yeah, that would help actually. That might work.
No,
that might not be a bad idea. No, but the point I'm trying to make is that, so on the one hand, there's going to be the sense that we're not the most appropriate people to be talking about these 2 chapters in the first place. So that's one. 2, we're not exactly in an interracial relationship. So, like, granted, we've already had this conversation. Bangladeshis. No, I get it. Bangladeshis and Arabs aren't the same thing. I understand that. I get that. But in the eyes of white people.
And everyone else, not just white people.
And everybody else, I don't know that they can really tell the difference.
Yeah.
So by and large, outside of our own communities, by and large, it's not really to the eyes of everybody else. Like when you tell people about the relationship you in, people who don't know the difference, when you tell people about the relationship you in, or you show people an image of the, gorgeous man you married, I'm just saying, but like, hi. Anyway, so when you tell people, about the relationship you in, or about the dude you married, or what have you, I'm assuming they don't like ask you questions, or they don't think about it as an interracial relationship. They don't think of it that way.
No.
That's my point. And particularly because we're both Muslims.
People are stupid.
No, that's true. But it's amplified by the fact that we're both Muslims.
Although one person who did pick up on us being different was a Ghanaian. I had a Ghanaian cab driver once, and he asked me where I was from, and I told him, and we started talking, and I was like, yeah, my husband's from Iraq. And he looked at me, he was like, are you Muslim? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, religion is the same. It's okay. I was like, oh, okay. Thanks. I'm glad I got your approval.
Cheers, man. Yeah, that's my stop though. Let me out. Yeah. But no, exactly. But this is my point. So for a large number of people, our circumstances wouldn't qualify as interracial so far as we're of the same religion And for them, there's no real difference between being an Arab and being a Bangladeshi, even though you and I can talk.
The same. We don't look the same.
We don't, but
brown.
to them, yeah, exactly.
But we're both brown, so
exactly. Even though we could talk all day long about the wild differences between Arabs and Bangladeshis, about like how you look, how I look, whatever else, we could talk all day long about those differences. But to the majority of the westernized eye, or the Western gaze, not the gaze, but the gaze,
right?
To the westernized eyes, or to Western eyes, it's difficult to distinguish between this. So we don't end up coming off as an interracial relationship, which is that's fine.
Yeah, and race is very much about how you are racialized by others.
Right.
You know?
So, given all of that, there's a question as to whether or not we're the most appropriate people to talk about this in the first place. And having said that.
Yeah, but we're discussing a freaking book by Frantz Fanon. Like, I'll talk about it.
That's my point, right? And while I understand that we're talking about what he's talking about, black man and white woman and black man and whatever else, he's very, very clear that, like we said a moment ago, this isn't just a melanin thing, and he's very, very clear. More importantly, go ahead.
But I just want to say one thing to that, to people who might have that criticism. I know that we all like to think that we're all unique and so different from each other, but we're not. And the reason that when I was reading these chapters, I kept identifying things that I felt like were true for interracial couples with, a white man and a brown woman, or a brown man and a white woman. Because we're talking about the colonial subject, and colonialism happened all over the world. It was not only in black countries, it was everywhere. And so you see, this is why you see, a lot of the same, like in relationship to whiteness, a lot of the same attitudes. So this is why skin bleaching is huge everywhere.
It's a huge thing everywhere.
Everybody in South Asia skin bleaches, across parts of Africa, people skin bleach, across Asia, like
massive.
This is absolutely everywhere, because
this is why there's been a spike. Forgive me, there's been a spike in what do you call those surgeries to get people's eyes in Korea to look more Western. Like they're doing surgeries to change the shape of their eyes so they can look Western.
Yeah. Like, but the thing is that this is what colonialism and the way colonialism exported whiteness was the same everywhere, where it was the standard that you had to meet.
Right.
And so I see a lot of similarities. Yes, he's talking about specifically, he doesn't even say the black woman. He says the woman of color and the man of color and the white woman.
Right.
So, this is not, yes, who he's talking about happens to be black, but I think that it really does apply across the board to people who are colonized, non-white people who are colonized.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's very, very true. I think, and we can find examples of these kinds of quote unquote interracial relationships that are difficult, even within some societies. Like, I mean, if you talked about, I don't know what it's like now, I assume it's a similar thing, but if you talked about, say, the Middle East, or specifically Iraq in the 1950s, 1960s, even back then, there were reports of people trying to marry like up or down in terms of the lightness or darkness of their skin tone.
Right. Yeah, no, this is the thing in Bangladesh.
That's the thing.
Oh my God. If you look like me, if you're my skin tone and you marry somebody dark, people are going to make comments. People will say all kinds of things. Like, they will judge you.
Right.
Why would you do that? Like,
right. It's almost as if you're going backwards.
You're going backwards. Yeah.
And they say it. They say it explicitly. They say openly. And granted, these aren't instances of quote unquote interracial relationships, but they are instances of the extension of that same colonial mind that makes that problematic. Yeah, it's the same concept. And it speaks to the power of like racist ideology that is ultimately a color-based idea, and then they've separated out white and black as if it's a significant, it's its own racial issue. Like, such is the hatred for what they considered black people, that you made it unto itself its own racial issue, and then beneath and beyond all of that, there's these smaller colorist issues, but that one is like a real crisis. Such is that the aggression of that oppression, the aggression of that hatred, the aggression of that fear, whatever you want to call it. Nevertheless, having said all of that, he says at one point, he quotes, I want to add to what we're saying, he does say at one point, or not him, but he quotes the author he's looking at in the first of these two chapters, Mayot Kapisha, who we'll talk about in a second. But she says at one stage, and he says, it's a quote from him, she says, he quotes her, and she's talking about this man that she's interested in, this white man that she's interested in, and she says, There were evenings unhappily when he had to leave me alone in order to fulfill his social obligations. He would go to Didier, the fashionable part of Fort de France, inhabited by the Martinican whiteys, what she calls the Martinique whiteys, who are perhaps not too pure racially, but who are often very rich. And then she adds, it's understood that one is white above a certain financial level. Like this idea, and it kind of makes it abundantly clear, this idea that when we're talking about whiteness and non-whiteness, we are implicitly talking about a class designation. That you can...
race is also a class. Race and class develop together in many, many places. And I think in this part of the world, meaning the Western Hemisphere, the Americas, the Caribbean, like all those places, there is that that notion that like race and class, there's something.
What happened? Did your brain just fail halfway through that sentence?
No, it did. What I'm trying to say is like they develop together in a way that not necessarily in the rest of the world. This is the case.
Yeah. I mean, I think no, but the thing is, I think they're the same thing in every single instance. It's just its expression, its manifestation in different nations will be different depending on the distance from the center of oppression, right? So if you happen to be living in the United States or living in the United Kingdom or living in France, for example, as was the case for Frantz Fanon, you're talking there about the senses of colonial power and the senses of colonial oppression. As a consequence, it's incumbent on the powerful in those societies to indoctrinate, propagandize their populations enormously. So what ends up happening is race ends up taking a very different nuance, and the racial problems take on a very different nuance in these countries than they will do in the others. Not better or worse, but certainly different. I'm not saying that it's easier to be black or white in any other country than it is in one. I don't know, but it's certainly a very, very, very different thing. And class is a much, much more explicit part of that process outside of Western nations, primarily because the idea is for you to ignore that inside the Western nations. It's part of the ideology, part of the propaganda, part of the indoctrination, is that you genuinely believe that these racial issues are tenets of your identity or your being, and that somehow we have to get over these things and so on and so forth. Like it's a part and parcel of who you are, blah 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 blah. Whereas in those other nations, like the victims of colonialism, it's a very, very clearly, well, not clearly, but it's evidently an issue of class. And I don't think anybody denies it. Like there's a deep association between class and race in those countries. If you're a Dalit in India, for example, there's a deep association between class and race there.
But that's not race, that's skin color. And caste in India.
That's caste.
Yeah.
Yeah, caste.
The caste is a different thing than race.
Caste is a different thing.
I know some people try to argue that it's the same. I don't know that I fully agree with that, because caste comes from their religion.
That's true.
But
what is that?
It's like skin color, but they're not. I don't think they're race. I don't know. I mean,
the weird thing is that the roots, a large part of the roots of the white anti-black racist language derives from their interpretation of certain passages of the Bible.
Yeah.
Like they have genuine interpretations of the Bible that they think for them permit the enslavement of darker skinned peoples.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, I know that they've used the Bible for this, but I just didn't know that there's passages that actually...
I've forgotten the exact thing. Now I'm going to sound like an idiot because I got to come back with the information. And we'll do this next week when I do come back with the information. But there's particular passages in the Bible where we're talking about the two sons of Noah, or two of the sons of Noah. And it's the story about how I've forgotten their names. But it's two of the sons of Noah. See, I need to do my research. Two of the sons of Noah, and they go into his tent one night after he gets drunk and what have you, and they see him half naked, and they mock him for his...
Oh.
But the point is, Noah was the only one in the world. I don't think he needed anything, so it kind of even shrunk. But the point is, so his two sons make fun of him. He wakes up, hears the two sons making fun of him, and then he punishes one of them, because one of them blames one of them. Like one of them blames the younger one or whoever. So the father punishes one of them worse than the other and curses his lineage. And their interpretation of this is that the sons of the lineage of that son are black people. They're cursed, which is why they're black. Like the argument is they're black as a symbol of their curse. And as a consequence, they're there to be enslaved. But that's kind of, it legitimizes it. They legitimized it with the Bible. It's a deeply religious thing. Fam, even the argument against racism, so even in the early 1900s and in the late 1800s, even when we were talking about the religious quote-unquote left, the people who are theologically leftist or whatever else, their argument in defense of or against slavery, forgive me, their argument was, well, it was biblical. And the same argument in the Bible said, well, okay, fine, but that doesn't mean that their thing was that, God gave us the animals and the earth and what have you for us to control, but that doesn't mean we should treat them cruelly. So it wasn't that they weren't less than you. They are less than you, but it doesn't mean you should be cruel to them. So it was more of a it was just a kinder Christianity.
So it was just like, oh, they are beneath us, but you have to be nice.
You have to be nice to them. So rather than have you should have organic farming rather than battery chickens.
This is why I like Sufism.
But it's the same logic.
Because Sufism is just like, none of this shit is real. You're just a soul. So just get used to it.
In any case, the point is, so he breaks this down, having kind of discuss the ins and outs of all of this. Let's kind of just deal with the actual chapters themselves for a second. But he breaks it down into these two chapters. And I want us to deal with, one, the chapters themselves, but two, the criticisms of Jean-Paul Sartre, the criticisms of Frantz Fanon with respect to these two chapters in particular. So the way you could sum them up, and tell me whether or not you agree here, but the way you could sum up these two chapters are, so the woman of color and the white man, for however many pages that goes on for, just seems to be a direct attack on Mayotte Capisce.
Yes, he's harsh.
And then with the man of color and the white woman, it seems to be a sympathetic interpretation of Jean Venus, the character written by another French author. So to me, you could read these two chapters as interpretations of literary interpretations almost of Frantz Fanon's view on Mayotte Capisce on the one hand and Jean Venus on the other one. So, first and foremost, while I'm doing my thing and finding out everything I could possibly find out about or getting up my information about Mayotte Capisce, what do you think of that chapter?
The Mayotte Capisce chapter. So, I think he is really harsh on her. I don't think anything he's saying is untrue. I think that, look, for me, both of these chapters, what's underlying everything is this deep feeling of inferiority because of your skin color, and it's been created by whiteness. And I think that he's right about that. I mean, where is he not telling the truth? I think he needs to
all right, let me give you an example of him not telling the truth.
Well, I feel like he blames her in a way that it's like when he's talking about the other guy, Jean Venus, he's saying he's explaining how society has created this, and so you're more sympathetic. But that could also be because he experienced what Jean Venus experienced. He didn't experience what Mayotte Capisce, he's not a woman, and he also probably has his own gender crap. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, because I feel like this is the thing. Men in general feel a way about, a man could go marry whoever, but if if you are a woman from whatever culture you're from, the men of your culture tend to feel like they all have this men tend to feel like they have ownership over women who are from their culture or whatever, their race or background, and so when a woman does this, it's an affront to their masculinity, because it's A, a rejection of them, B, it's rooted in this oh, you can't control your women type of thing, this woman is here for you to control because she's yours. I mean, I always notice this with different men, in the way that they interact with women, and so it could be also some of that. The thing is, you can have all those critiques of Fanon, but it doesn't mean what he's writing here is 100% is not true.
So you're trying to walk hold up, because I'm trying to catch up with you here, because he does, hold up, I dropped almost the entire world there. His criticisms are pretty aggressive, right? So at one point, let me give you the line and now defend it. Let me give you the line and then defend it. Because he says, page 33. At the very top of page 33, right? He's still going.
We had different pages.
That's cool. He's still going in on Mayotte Capisce. That's fine. I love that you just never mind. He's still going in on Mayotte Capisce.
What? What do you want me to do?
I'm in a sauna here. But all right. So he says on page 33 or wherever page it is at the top of your text, we are thus put on notice that what Mayotte wants is a kind of lactification. He calls it a lactification.
I don't know what that word means. What is that?
Lactification, lactose, milk.
Milkification?
She wants to white everything. She wants to lactify herself. She wants to lactify her writing. She wants to lactify her life.
She does.
A lactification? Like, you don't feel like it's a particularly harsh way to describe... Like, you don't think it's an aggressive and harsh way to describe what is otherwise just a love affair? Particularly considering he ended up with a white woman himself?
I don't know that love affairs between white people and not white people are ever just a love affair.
Ooh, controversial.
Sorry.
Ooh.
And that doesn't mean I don't think that there can be love there. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that there can't. No. I'm not saying that there can't be love there. Absolutely, there can be. But is it only that? I don't know, because I think.
I'm letting you stew on this one. I ain't even save you. Go ahead.
No, it's possible, but I think the majority of cases when a black or a brown person is dating a white person, I think that it could have something to do. I think that it most of the time it does have something to do with all these underlying things, because the reality is, like, look, we can't separate ourselves from the social context. We just can't. And our social context is one where race is everything. I'm not saying that it's impossible for there to be love between those two people, but what I'm saying is the world that we live in has created it so that race is so
permeates everything.
Yeah, it's the way that we understand other people,
right,
and see other people is
ubiquitous.
Through race first and foremost. You know what I mean? Like, we look at someone, we look at what they look like, we assume we know what they are, and then we make assumptions about them as people. And so because of that, I think it would be very, 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 and because of all the negative, all the positive attributes that have been associated with whiteness and all the negative attributes that have been associated with blackness or brownness or whateverness, I don't know that it's possible for you to go into a relationship, an interracial relationship with a white person and not have those things sort of come into play. I don't know that it's I don't know.
I'm trying to find the passage while you're telling me. I'm trying to find the passage.
And the thing is, Capisha is trying to lactify everything. She is. This is what she's doing. Look, before that, the page before that.
Oh, you doubling down. Go ahead.
I'm sorry that Mayotte Capisha has told us nothing about her dreams. That would have made it easier to reach her unconscious. Instead of recognizing her absolute blackness, she proceeds to turn it into an accident. She learns that her grandmother was white. I found that, and this is a quote from her, I found that I was proud of it. I was certainly not the only one who had white blood, but a white grandmother was not so ordinary as a white grandfather. So my mother then was a mixture? I should have guessed it. When I looked at her light color, I found her prettier than ever and cleverer and more refined. If she had married a white man, do you suppose I should have been completely white?
I mean, I'm with you. Listen, I'm not denying that.
She's trying to whiten herself, like whiten everything, because society has told her that whiteness has all these good attributes, right? Pretty, clever, refined, all these things. Whereas blackness is all the opposite of that. Brownness, if you go to Bangladesh, what do Bangladeshis always say to me? You're not Bangladeshi, you're white, you're so pretty. You're white, you're so pretty. But they're talking about my skin color. And they associate light skin with beauty.
Yeah.
Right? Because they've been told for so long that their dark skin is like ugly. In Bangladesh, black means ugly. And most of the people in Bangladesh are black.
But we're not denying, hold on. I'm not denying that she says things, we can quote things, and he does. We can quote things and she says things that are in the very, very least controversial and in the very, very most anti-black. Cool. I'm not denying that that's present in her language and that's present in her text. That much is there. But it's also present in Jean Venus. So when he's talking about Jean Venus, not to mention that it's present in Frantz Fanon's life, but when we're talking about Jean Venus and the desire to, he said he felt as though he was almost grasping white civilization itself when he grasped her white breasts. It's like, yo, homie, relax.
No, it's
relax.
Yeah.
But it's almost as if he came to grips with almost all of white civilization. He felt himself accepted by whiteness. He felt himself included in whiteness, so on and so forth. The point is that there are criticisms of Jean Venus and there are criticisms of Meo Capisce, but he's very sympathetic to Jean Venus and he goes in on this Meo Capisce reading.
Yeah.
So defend it. Because your thing is that he's right anyway.
He is right. Look, she's trying to do all the things that he's saying, but my issue with it is that he blames her as an individual, as if she just decided to do this. When really it's not her, it's the context she lives in.
Literally what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's the same with Jean Venus though, but he recognizes it in Jean Venus, but he doesn't recognize it in her. And I think that
I just said that.
So what do you want me to defend? I don't understand. I'm agreeing with you.
No, because your thing is that you feel like he's right despite that. How can he be right?
He's right in his analysis. His analysis of her is correct. She's trying to lactify everything.
But that's not what's happening.
What do you mean?
Because if he's right in his analysis of Jean Venus, and if he's right in his analysis of Meo Capisce, and that's not her, we'll talk about her in a second, that's not her name, but if he's right in his analysis of her in terms of her wanting a white man or what have you, that's all fine. But why couldn't it be the case that it's not her desire to lactify anything, it's her response to the need to lactify everything?
That's what I'm saying.
No, that's what you're saying. I get that's what you're saying, but I'm saying he doesn't present it that way.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the way he's presenting it is wrong. She is doing these things, so is Jean Venus. But he's presenting it in a way where for her it becomes her fault. For him, it's not his fault. It's forces outside of him. When really for both of them, it's forces outside of him because society.
He says, all right, so look, here's the key thing. He says at one point,
Jean Venus is trying to lactify everything too.
I know. He says at one point,
well,
we'll get to Jean Venus in a second. He said, the fact remains, he says, that true, authentic love, wishing for others what one postulates for oneself, when that postulation unites the permanent values of human reality, entails the mobilization of psychic drivers basically freed of unconscious conflicts. He couches the beginning of this conversation of his, at the beginning, he repeats it at the end, in this concept of true love, right? So while, he is doing a psychoanalytic almost analysis of these two characters of Meo Capisce and Jean Venus, and he is talking about the nature of those relationships and so on and so forth. All of that is true, but he's couching it in this theory of love. I think he thinks that genuine love, like real love, freedom from your own ego, like the genuine submission of your own ego for the benefit of the other person, is somehow tied up in freedom from the issues that come with racial relationships. Like, he's not denying they come up, of course, like you were saying a moment ago. We're not denying that there's an issue with interracial relationships, insofar as you're going to have to encounter this at one stage or another. But the depth or the profundity or the truth or the authenticity of the love between the two people will undermine the issues that come up as a consequence of race. Like, he seems to be suggesting that if you're genuinely egoless in how you love the other, you couldn't also then have these interracial issues.
You really love the other.
That's
right?
what he
you
said.
Have to really love the other. But the thing is, when you're fetishizing another person, you're dehumanizing them. Can you actually have love for them then if they become an object?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know that you can. I mean,
if you are fetishizing the other person, he says, look at this. Let me just read this passage here. This is him talking about being both black and white.
I just think in many interracial relationships, it is a fetishization. And I don't mean that just in black and white or brown and white relationships. I think a lot of interracial relationships become that. Like, I've been in a lot of interracial relationships and I felt fetishized in all of them, really, because I was like this weird thing that nobody else dated, like nobody else had. It was just, I was an object, really, you know?
but you were an object to the person you were dating. Forgive me, to the person you were dating.
To a degree.
You sure that's not just because you're a female, and there's an objectification of females?
Well, there's an objectification of females, but definitely it was also racial because everyone thinks I'm Puerto Rican and Dominican. When they find out I'm not, it's like, oh, whoa, like dudes get, like I've had men say to me like, well, I've never been with like that, like a girl like you before. Like they've never been.
Yo, what dude though? What dude? What's his name though? Where he lived though? Let me
Oh
go
my
talk to
God,
him.
these are like old exes that I never talked to anyone. People I dated or whatever. But it always was this sort of fetishization, and I never liked it. And this is part of the reason that honestly I stopped dating. So I used to only date Black and Latino men before because that's who I was around. That's who I grew up around, and so my exes were all either Puerto Rican.
Because you were fetishizing Black and Latino men.
No, but I wasn't.
Cool.
It was just that who I was around, like who I grew up with and everything. But
yeah.
As I got older, I didn't like there's a lot of things. I just didn't like the fetishization. I didn't like also the stereotyping, the thing, like I didn't like the not understanding. You don't understand my culture or my religion and you're not even trying. Like everything is just weird to you. Like I don't like that. Which is what pushed me more towards brown men and wanting to date brown men, because I just don't want to be with someone who fetishizes me, fetishizes what I look like, doesn't understand my culture, my religion, like all these things that you need to
Listen, I confess this was my problem though. I had a similar issue, right? But I dealt with it a slightly different way because my thing was it bugged me that was the case. Like it bugged me that that being in a relationship with a quote unquote brown woman meant that was the stereotypical thing to do. It was the easy thing to do. It was the traditional thing to do. And it was the obvious thing to do in the eyes of everybody else in my society because I didn't fit in either. So growing up where I grew up in South London, particularly the time that I was growing up in South London, it weren't that many Arabs. Like there were Arabs, but it weren't that many. The overwhelming majority of your social groups or your peer groups were either, African, Caribbean, Asian, what have you. Like South Asian.
Asian meaning South Asian, yeah.
Well, no, but I had a whole bunch of East Asian friends too.
Okay.
So like, Vietnamese, Chinese, what have you. I had a whole bunch of friends from all different places, but my ability to have friends from all different racial demographics was premised on the fact that nobody really knew what my crew was. And it was mainly because there were 3 Arabs in that school. Me, my brother, and one other kid.
Yeah.
And that one other kid could have been confused for my brother. Like it's just, and he wasn't holding down the team well at all. My man wore his trousers all the way up past his belly button. My man had bum fluff mustache from the age of 12. I was like, homie, you gotta do something with that. You are not representing the team.
Yo, why are Arab men so hairy everywhere except their heads?
They hairy on their heads.
No,
They
all
just
go
bald
bald
early.
You all go bald.
Yeah, they bald early.
By the time you're like 35, like even younger, something like I have a 7-year-old.
Well,
I'm like,
it is all the stress of the woman, the kuffar woman.
It's the 4 wives. You have so many wives.
I know. Wallah, I need a personal assistant for each wife. Problem. Each personal assistant wants to be wife B. So I have a wife and wife B. And wife 2 and wife 2P and wife 3 and wife 3P, and wallahi it is big problem, big problem, and this is why the hair it fall. Wallahi, I have the hair it fall. Wallahi it fall. I was stressed out, and I wake up and the hair it fall.
All right, dude, move on. Come on.
No, but the point I'm making is, I don't know what the point I'm making is. For me, it was a similar issue, like because of the racial demographics that I grew up in, and the fact that there just weren't that many other Arabs in that environment. The assumption on everybody else's part was that okay, but you're gonna end up with a brown woman. Like you're gonna have to end up with a brown woman because what else is your thing? And whatever brown woman you were with, for them they were like, oh, that makes sense. So if I was attracted to a Bangladeshi, they'd be like, oh, but that's one of your people's. I'm like, no, it isn't one of my people.
Not at all.
Not at all. But like for them,
language. Remember when your friend asked if we speak Arabic to each other?
Who?
We speak to each other in Arabic. Lee.
Oh, we don't need to mention him, but yes, I'm with you.
We speak Arabic to each other. We don't even speak the same language.
Bro.
Except for now. Ahlan wa sahlan.
All right, relax.
Ahlan.
But the point I'm making is that it was seen as like what you ought to be doing, dating a brown woman.
Yeah.
And that bugged me. And it bugged me, moreover, that it was almost as if you couldn't be in a relationship with a non-brown person without risking either the accusation of or the fact of fetishization. So either she's going to fetishize you or you're going to fetishize her, or both ways, or what have you, but this ain't going to work. That whole thing annoyed the crap out of me.
Yeah.
That whole dynamic annoyed me, which is precisely what I was like, nah, I'm dating everybody now.
But I think it's true, though.
I'm
I
humping
think
all of y'all.
the thing is, I never cared about any of that, like dating, another brown person, all of that traditional stuff. I actually didn't want to do that, because I was like, this is stupid. And I was like, these things don't matter. It doesn't matter where you're from, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter what your background is. It's about connecting with the person. Yes, but also people will fetishize you. And I personally, I don't like that.
I agree with you. I just don't know that I wanted a way out. Look, my thing was, you know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna hump all of y'all, and somewhere in the course of that, we're all gonna figure out the psychological problem. All right, y'all all gonna get over your Arab issues or your fetishization issues.
I'm not doing that. That's a lot of work.
That's okay. You don't need to do. I do all the work. That's fine. But look, let me give you this. So he's got this particular passage where he's talking about this problem, this idea of being caught up in one's own race, and the mutual, I suppose, negative, the mutual drawback for both people, or for both groups, or for whichever racial group you tie yourself into. He says, I am white. That is to say that I possess beauty and virtue which have never been black. I am the color of the daylight. Then he goes on to say, I am black. I am the incarnation of a complete fusion with the world, an intuitive understanding of the earth, an abandonment of my ego in the heart of the cosmos, and no white man, no matter how intelligent he may be, can ever understand Louis Armstrong and the music of the Congo. If I'm black, it's not the result of a curse, but it's because having offered my skin, I have been able to absorb the cosmic effluva. I'm truly a ray of sunlight under the earth. And he continues to say, and there, one lies body to body with one's blackness or one's whiteness in full narcissistic cry, each sealed into his own peculiarity, with its true, now and then a flash or so, but these are threatened at their source. The idea is that he describes what, of course, is an excess. It's excessive and probably ridiculous or absurd. But the point is, he describes the excesses of what you might think of if you thought of yourself as being proud of being white. I'm white, so I'm the source of civilization. I'm amazing. I'm a genius. I'm beautiful. I'm the source of the beauty standard in the world. Blah 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 blah. I'm black, so I'm all of these amazing things too, right? And then he goes through the list, and the description of the virtues of being black are far longer than the virtues of being white. It's one sentence for the white. But he refers to both as being caught or sealed in this full narcissistic cry.
Yeah.
Don't me. What do you think?
Yeah, it's true. That is narcissism.
Is it?
Yeah.
Man, chill. I'm sorry. Why is that narcissism?
So the thing is, here's the thing. I understand the need for, particularly in the West, for Black people to have a Black Pride movement, right? Because Black has been so diminished for so long here. So I get that. That's not my criticism. But is it still egoistic? Of course it is, because the counter to anybody, it could be for it doesn't have to be just about race. Like if you're diminished because of your gender, because of any of that, the counter to that is not to be super proud, in my opinion, of like being a woman or being brown or being Black or being whatever. The counter to that is, well, screw all of this. I'm not any of those things. That's how I'm just gonna be me as
screw Alia. I'm different.
No, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't actually disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I don't.
Yeah.
I just feel like
because what it does is it just reinforces this idea of the self over and over and over again.
Why is that a bad thing?
I'm all these things. Well, to me, that's like the height of European thinking. They're very focused on, that's the height. I feel like whiteness, something about ideological whiteness has to do with the self. Is that they are the center of everything.
What if as a consequence of, and I'm only playing devil's advocate just because I'm curious about your opinion, but what if as a consequence of white colonialism and a history of 400 or 500 year long history of the denigration, destruction, and diminishment of my people, we no longer have a self to refer to. Like, I don't even have a sense of identity or history or culture or what have you to refer to. So isn't there an argument to say that I have to rebuild that? Like, it's the old Malcolm X-ish, right? I have to be a man in the first place in order for me to kind of like to stand up for something.
Yeah, no, I get that. That's what I'm saying though. That's what I said in the beginning. Like, I understand the need for this, but I don't know.
No? I mean, I don't know. I'm just curious about your opinion.
When you feel so bad about who you are, particularly in terms of something that you can't control, race, right? How you're racialized, what you look like your culture, your identity, whatever. Like, I do get it, but because let me tell you, I always felt that way. I always had a race thing where I just felt like not good enough to anybody, for anyone. Black.
Wait, what do you mean?
Brownness. I always saw brownness as a negative thing. There was a long time when I wanted.
We're gonna have to do a whole psychoanalysis session right now. Now we're gonna have to go into this.
The thing is, like, there was a long time when I wanted to erase my brownness. I didn't like it.
Okay.
And so, but I did that by, I mean, everyone around me was pretty much black, so I just did it by going as deep as I could into blackness. But I don't know.
Yo, you can't just drop a bomb on us like that. But hey, you know you're not on a call. You can't just be like, hey, Junior, fam. You can't start off with I felt like inferior as a consequence of being brown.
Like, I kind of understand what he's talking about here, like, because I always felt inferior, but I guess for me, my inferiority was not, whiteness wasn't going to help me. I wasn't reaching for that.
Right.
I don't know.
I feel like you're discovering this thought live.
I am.
Like, you are literally just this is occurring to you now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, if you ain't gonna, like, I mean, you gotta tell me more now.
I don't know.
So at some point in the course, so wait, hold up. Being with a brown man doesn't reinforce that, or doesn't make you feel like you're trying to address your inferiority
anymore. Well, I don't feel that way anymore.
Oh, you don't feel inferior anymore.
But the way I got rid of that inferiority was not by being super proud to be brown and like I'm brown. It was just like this. I'm not any of this shit.
You know, Missy's gonna have to bleep your swears.
Oh, sorry.
But I'm just saying, you apologize to Missy. You're gonna tell her in a group chat afterwards. But then I just feel like it's a little bit different if I happen to be, it's easier to do that, or there's an option to do that if I happen to be part of a group like the one you described as, say, a group that doesn't really fit in anywhere anyway. Like, I don't mean it disrespectfully, but if I don't fit in a particular group anyway, so there's not so much of a social stigma about how I should appear, how I should dress, how I should talk, how I should walk, who I should mix with, who I should date, who I should whatever else. If you didn't have that social pressure from a group that identified you as one of them, then sure, it'd be much, much easier for you to be like, you know what, this whole racial thing, I'm done with all that. I'm gonna just dump all that. Look, I'm not saying this to kind of like to disagree with you. I kind of feel the same way.
That associates me with them.
Which group?
Dominicans and Puerto Ricans. And it doesn't matter what I say. I'd be like, no, listen to me, I'm not. And they'd be like, no, you are. I'm like, no.
No, I'm really not, homie.
No, I'm really not at all. Not even a little bit. No, you are. Like.
But this is, hey, papi. But this is what I'm saying to you. It's just, it's for you. I mean, granted for them, and even then it's like, it's jokey, but for you didn't feel yourself genuinely or meaningfully, intimately associated with the particular group. And as a consequence of that, there's a little more room for you to be like, you know what, this whole race thing is just, it's off. But it's the same, I felt the same way. Like, I'm only saying this because I felt the same way when I was in school, right? So like I was saying, when I'm in school and I'm seeing all of these different racial groups, and eventually at a certain point, they break off into their own little cliques, right? So they spend time, the East Asians would spend time with the East Asians, the South Asians would chill with the South Asians, the Caribbeans would chill with the Caribbeans, whatever, like, they made up their own little groups. And I wasn't including any of those because I don't fit into any of those groups. And then, so what I'm gonna do, just chill between me and my brother and Mohammed over here, like with his trousers up to here. trousers under his nipples. I'm like, homie, like it was not a good look. But because of that, on the one hand, it meant that I had.
Fit in with the South Asians. I would think you would because Islam.
No, the South Asians hated me. They hated me.
Were they not Muslim South Asians? Is that why?
They were Muslim South Asians, but the female South Asians I got along with. Male South Asians didn't like me, presumably for the same reason you mentioned beforehand, namely that I'm the Arab getting along with the female South Asians.
Oh yeah, you're gonna steal their women.
I'm the infiltrator. I get it.
You're the white people of the East.
I see. I'm gonna come in here and steal your women. I'm like, bro, I don't know what to tell you. I just do this better. But the point is, so for me, it meant that I could go into all of these different groups and I could make friends with all of these different racial groups, and it was hugely beneficial for my education. It was hugely beneficial for my life, and I'm never ever going to be disappointed about that. But the flip side of it is that, okay, yes, you have access to all of these groups because you don't fit into it in a particular one, but then it's easier for you to discard the burdens or the attachments that come with being a member of a particular race.
Well, it wasn't easy. It's not easy in the US, I don't think.
I'm sure it isn't.
Because I don't know how it is over there, but over here, race is the only thing. That's it. That's literally everything. That's all you are.
But you fit into what race?
Not weird.
That's my point. So for you, because that's what I'm trying to tell you, because there's a lack of a kind of a social commitment or whatever else, or a draw pulling you in, like you have to belong to that group or whatever else, it's easier for you to be like, you know what, I think this whole thing is BS.
So that's what I'm saying. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I struggled.
Why wasn't it easy?
My entire life, because you want to fit in and you just don't know where. You just don't have a place. So you just feel like, am I nothing? I never understood this. Like, to me, race has always been a hard thing to understand and to grapple with because of this, because I don't fit in anywhere, because it doesn't make sense to me, because people tell me that I'm Asian, but I'm not Asian.
All right, one of these days, someone's gonna have to explain to me what the living fudge Asia is, right? Every single time somebody says Asia, it just feels like white people went off and started dividing the map up between the continents, and then got really tired and lazy by the time they got to what they call Asia. Because
everybody is just Asia.
Seems to be everything. Once you get past like halfway through the Middle East, past Europe. Once you get past Europe, you're past Turkey.
So this is the thing. No, Turkey is in Asia too.
Oh God.
This is the thing. Turkey is in Asia. I know they want to be in Europe because they want to be white, but Turkish people, you're not white. You're like the rest of us, and you're Muslim. So just get over that whiteness stuff. But this is the thing, right? Like, Asian is like Turkish, Persian, Arab, Central Asian, South Asian,
East Asian,
Southeast Asian. It's like every group put
all
together.
Asian.
Like, what is that?
And not all of you guys. And what they did is it's the two largest populations as well. Indians and Chinese, two of the largest populations of planet Earth. You went, no, it's all Asians.
Same thing.
What do you mean Asians? Bro, you can't just Asians, that whole group. I'm like, nah, it's all Asians. No, it isn't. These are mad different peoples, but not Asians.
Asian Americans, a group that currently makes up around 7% of the US population and is actually the fastest growing racial group. And yet, despite that, Asian Americans can sometimes be oddly overlooked. A recent survey asked respondents to simply name a well-known Asian American, and the results were not good.
42% of people said that they don't know one. The next most popular answers were Jackie Chan, who's from Hong Kong, and Bruce Lee, who died in 1973.
Oh, come on.
I try to talk to my students about this, like, what is race, you know? Does it actually make sense? Because to call me Asian and to call a Korean Asian, what? If race is
explain
a
it to me.
Construct, if race is a social construct and it's rooted, and it is, and it's really about how you're racialized by others, because that is what determines how you're treated in society. And that's why race matters, is because we have these stupid ideas in our head and we're treating each other a certain way as a result of what we look like. Then really it's just about what you look like.
No,
so what does that mean? Am I Puerto Rican?
Based on what I look like?
That's the slur everyone uses. When people use a slur against me, that's what they call me, a Puerto Rican piece of shit. That's what I've been. If I had a nickel, I'm kidding, not kidding you. If I had a nickel for every time someone called me that, and I'm just like, it's not even the right slur. I'm a doom coon. Like, you can't even get it right.
I'm a doom coon.
Like,
to clean the trash can of society, I've chosen to become more than a man. I am the hero this town needs. I am the king.
I'm a doing good. That's terrible. Oh shoot, that's terrible. No, but I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I just look. I'm not making the argument because I feel like it's the case. I just wanted to kind of present the other point of view, but I agree with you. In any case, I don't know how we took this tangent and we ended up here. How do we even get
Right,
here?
because we were talking about race. The thing is, you can't talk about this book and these 2 chapters in particular without delving into like race and like your own.
I mean, I don't know why, because I feel like these 2 chapters, I mean, they're relatively focused in their attention. He's literally just talking about the relationships between these peoples. I will say before
I
we move
will
on,
say that would be a boring ass conversation if we just stuck to these 2 chapters. Like, what makes this discussion interesting is adding your own experiences in with race and dating and.
you sound like somebody who didn't pay attention to the chapters.
No, I did, but
I feel like there's mad material in these chapters. But the point is, let's just say this before we kind of make mention of Jean Venus. I don't think we're gonna get into Jean Venus today, but just before we make mention of Jean Venus, and like, you know, before that happens, I just want to mention the fact that obviously this conversation about Meo Capicia, so it's all based around the book that she wrote, I Am a Martinican Woman, Je suis Martiniquaise, and it's not her real name, right? So Meo Capicia is her pseudonym. It's Lucette Serenus, is her real name. And he targets her for a lot of criticism, as I said beforehand, because, you know, they come from similar places and whatever. Now, we didn't really get into whether or not the woman of color being with a white man is always evidence of some kind of like psychological problem and the desire to whiteify yourself, but I can see how that could be the case. Jean Venus. Jean Venus. Let me just say this, all right? Because I kind of want to read this because Jean Venus is important to me, all right? He's a character, right? Jean Venus is a character written by a guy called, hold on, let me try to find his name. Do you know the author's name?
Do I know what?
The author's name.
Oh, it's here. Hold on.
Oh, this is terrible. Look at this.
Germaine.
I got it. René Maran. Aha.
Oh, okay, never mind. Germaine Jules is another one.
No. René Maran is the guy who wrote the Jean Venus. The character of Jean Venus described him. The point is there's this account of Jean Venus that I really like, right? And this for me was the reason why I was already page 1 of Black Skin White Masks, and my mind is already being blown, right? But by the time I got to page 46 and we start introducing Jean Venus, I couldn't help but feel like, oh God, that's me.
Wait, why?
No, I'm just, listen, I'm confessing, I'm saying this out loud. We can say whatever we want to say. It's a good thing, it's a bad thing, I'm appropriate, I'm not, I don't accuse me of whatever you want to accuse me of. But the fact of the matter is, I'm sitting here reading his description of Jean Venus, and I got the same chills the other day when I read it again. I was like, yo, my man is describing me. It's terrifying. But look.
Wait, when you caressed white breasts, you felt like you were grasping white civilization and dignity and making it worse?
I have grasped the greatest breasts that whiteness could offer. I feel as though I had Vienna and Paris in both of my hands, you know? That was mad. That was mad weird. That whole those aren't breasts. Those are udders, bro. I don't know what you're doing.
I feel like that's something that like the creepy Arab dude downstairs would do.
That might, yeah, that sounds relatively accurate. So look, Jean Venus, right? Is this character from the book by René Maran. He goes into a detailed explanation of who he is and what have you. I think obviously Jean Venus, it says it right here, I'm an idiot. It says it here that I think Fanon sees himself in Jean Venus too.
Yeah, that's why he's going easier on him.
Yeah. But listen to this. I'm just gonna read this and then we're gonna move on and we'll come back to Jean Venus next week or something. But he says this. The personality of the author does not emerge quite so easily as one might wish. An orphan sent to a provincial boarding school, he is compelled to spend his vacation there. His friends and acquaintances scatter all over France on the slightest pretext, whereas the little Negro is forced into the habit of solitude, so that his best friends are his books. At the extreme, I should say, there's a certain accusatory character, a certain resentment, an ill-disciplined aggression in the long list, too long, of traveling companions that the author offers us. At the extreme, I say, but it's exactly to the extreme we have to go. Unable to be assimilated, notice this, unable to pass unnoticed, he consoles himself by associating with the dead, or at least the absent. And his associations, unlike his life, ignore the barriers of centuries and oceans. He talks with Marcus Aurelius, Joinville, Pascal, Perez-Galdós, Rabindranath Tagore. Even if he were compelled to hang a label on Jean-Venus, we should have to call him an introvert. Others might call him a sentimentalist. But a sentimentalist who is always careful to contrive a way of winning out on the level of ideas and knowledge. As a matter of fact, his friends and schoolmates hold him in high regard. What a perpetual dreamer. You know, my old pal Venus is really a character. He never takes his nose out of his books except to scribble all over his notebooks. This guy that he describes as having suffered from an abandonment complex, a severe pathological abandonment complex, that he thinks underwrites his desire for white women and his relationships with white women.
Well, why would abandonment make you want white women?
Because he's denied, but because the same black woman who prefers a white man doesn't want him because he's black.
Yeah.
His blackness is a negative in the eyes of the black woman that he might otherwise find attractive. And insofar as that's the case, he's compelled to find his dignity or his whiteness or his sense of self in a white woman. He's validated by her. It's the same issue flipped the other way around, but read sympathetically. Do you see what I'm saying? It's almost as if in the case of Meo Capitia, he's blaming Meo Capitia, and in the case of Jean-Venus, he's blaming white people and black women. Because what he's saying is, I feel abandoned by my black sisters because they don't like my blackness. And insofar as they don't like my blackness, I don't feel like I have the dignity of a man.
Black women have. It's that black
I
men
know.
Non-black women.
I know. But this is what I'm trying to tell you. When he talks about Meo Capitia, that's not the way he casts it. In Meo Capitia, it's just you trying to lactify your life. But with Jean-Venus, it's the abandonment complex that I suffer as a consequence of the fact that, it's where you start the clock. Do you see what I'm saying? With Jean-Venus, he starts the clock with what happened to give me the abandonment complex.
Right.
With Meo Capitia, it's okay, I know there might be an abandonment complex, but let's start here. Why did you decide to date a white man?
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you're wrong.
But both of them are trying to lactify their lives, but he gives a reason, a social reason why Jean-Venus, but he doesn't give a reason for Meo Capitia. She's just a terrible person, according to him.
And it might, to some degree, speak to his own sense of abandonment. With respect to, listen, I don't want to say this because I love Frantz Fanon. I don't want to demean his character in any way, shape, or form. But there were critics.
He's human.
No, I agree. But there were critics of Frantz Fanon while he was alive, precisely because he spent so much time with the Algerians. Some of them were Algerian critics because he took on a Muslim name.
He did?
Yes.
What was his Muslim name?
Omar, I think.
Get out of here.
His name, Frantz Omar Fanon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He took on a Muslim name. He considered himself an Algerian at one point. He considered himself a brother of the Algerians. He considered himself not unlike the Arabs. I mean, he found himself, even the Arabs would say, so the Algerians who were fighting with him would say at times that they found him trying to find a home in Algeria.
Yeah.
And it's that, you could suggest, and I don't want to make it as though I'm criticizing Frantz Fanon, but you could imply that same sense of that abandonment complex that he's pointing out in Jean-Venus is what's driving his desire to find a home in either Algeria or the white woman that he ends up with. And it's that same thing that won't allow him to see the sympathetic reading of Meo Capitia, but instead to look at her like the black woman that rejected me. This is the black woman that only wanted that white man and rejected me as a consequence, and so doing. Made me feel less of myself. But this reading of Jean-Venus, nevertheless, this reading of a man who's like suffering from this abandonment complex, and as a consequence of that suffering of the abandonment complex, finds himself compelled to be introverted and to commit himself to reading, to commit himself to what he calls the conversations with the dead. right? The dead or the no longer here or what have you. That for me is the part of Jean Venus's character that I couldn't help but really empathize with. Like, dude, that's me. That's my whole childhood. That's my whole teen years. That's my whole, if I'm being really honest with you, my whole issue with the approach to women generally, insofar as it related to race, was that because my race wasn't one that seemed to fit into a particular box or another one, it made you feel inferior across the board. It was almost as if women looked at you as like not an option. Like you were either white because the white women like the white men, or you had to be black because the black women like or you had to be Asian because of whatever, you had to be whatever, but fit into one of these generally acknowledged racial groups in order for you to be an option one way or the other. And whichever way you become an option, I'm either fetishizing or I'm interested in something new, whatever. But the point is that you become an option. As that dude who doesn't really have like a racial group that, you know, we can all recognize, you're not even looked at as like a thing. You're not a sexual entity.
That's how I feel though. That's what I was saying. Like, for me, like a lot of guys don't like South Asian women. Like South Asian women are not, you are the only, I always tell you, you are the only man I have ever met who's like, I like Bangladeshi. That sentence does not come out of anyone's mouth ever.
Let me just make this clear. My whole family knows this. All my friends know this. This isn't a surprise. Bangladeshi women are gorgeous. I love Bangladeshi
But that's
women.
also because the Bangladeshis in the UK look different than the Bangladeshis here. The Bangladeshis here look like just got here from the village.
I can't speak for Bangladeshis in the US. I don't know.
And yeah, they don't groom themselves in the way that is attractive in the West. But no, but I never ever no one was ever like, you know, ooh, South Asians. Like nobody, we're not a thing. You're not a sexual anything.
Yeah, you're not a sexual entity, sexual object in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And as a consequence,
the men that do want to date you because you're exotic.
Exotic.
I freaking hate that term. This is what I mean. This is what I hate. It's the exotification thing. That's the objectification I was talking about earlier, right? So when I dated Black and Latino men growing up, there was always this weird exotification, and I was like, I don't like that at all. And then on top of it, you act like my culture is weird. You act like my religion is weird. You think you don't even want to understand it. I'm good. I had an ex who knew nothing about Islam but wanted to always tell me that Islam hated women. Excuse me, you're Puerto Rican Pentecostal Christian. Like,
stop. Yeah, you don't know.
Hate women.
Stop it. No, I'm with you. I understand. And I think this is part of the reason why, to me, Jean Venus spoke so powerfully as a character, right? His obsession with books, his obsession with, and it's more than anything else, it was that he tried to find in his obsession with books a way to dignify himself. It was almost as a means of kind of like declaring himself a man, or declaring himself dignified, or declaring himself somebody worthy of other people's respect, whether white or Black, came from the fact that I could have conversations with these great dead thinkers, right? That I could think on this level, that I could engage on this level, and that somebody wasn't judging me. Like I could talk to Nietzsche without Nietzsche ever judging me, and I could talk to Heidegger without Heidegger ever judging me, even though Heidegger was a Nazi. I could talk to I could talk to all of these figures without feeling judged by them in the course of my having a conversation with them, mainly because they're dead. And because their thoughts were so grand, like they're so large, Immanuel Kant and Plato and all these Schopenhauer and what have you, because their thoughts were so out there, it was so far beyond the regular realms of everyday life, of like your race or your social group or your politics or where your family comes from, all of that BS. It was a comfortable place to be. You almost felt like you could find that sense of dignity and at the same time win something and be away from all of it. It was like it's a win-win-win-win-win. So this Jean Venus who dedicates himself to that and finds himself introverted and has these difficult relationships with Black women and white women and can't really figure out how to engage. I couldn't help but look at that like, yo, dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel exactly that. Like I feel everything you feel. So look, I feel like Jean Venus and his analysis of the man of color and the white woman is something that warrants serious attention. So I don't want to like squeeze in a conversation of that at the end of this seminar. I feel like we can have that conversation either at the beginning of the top of the next seminar, or when we come back around to lessons from literature.
No, we should do it next week, I think.
Cool, I'm down.
Keep talking about this. Yeah,
I'm down. So I'm happy to have that conversation. But for the course of this week, let's just put a pin in it for now and say that, all right, cool, we've covered the woman of color and the white man and Frantz Fanon's reading of that and so on and so forth. But that we'll come back at some point next week, and either next week or whatever else, but we'll deal with the Jean Venus issue and the man of color and the white woman and those analyses and those issues. More than anything else, what I want to get across is this. I just want to make sure that we really understand that what we're dealing with is a psychoneurotic issue.
Right.
That racism and race for him is a psychoneurotic issue, and he genuinely thinks that the egolessness of love might resolve that. Sounds a bit Bob Marley-ish. I don't know. It's a bit Bob Marley. But yeah, I don't know.
Is this love, is this love, is this love, is this love that I'm feeling?
In any case, look, I feel like we should wrap it up here for this week's seminar. So, has been another open seminar. Sorry, what did you want to say?
My camera got funny, didn't it?
Yeah, like you got fuzzy, but I don't know what happened. I feel like
I have no idea.
Yeah. In any case, it has been another open seminar. I've been your boy Dr. E. That's been your girl, the Great Dictator Tanzim. We will be back same time, same place, 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST, Monday. Every single Monday as per usual. You'll catch the edited version of this seminar on Saturday as per usual. It drops sometime during the course of Saturday. We'll never get a chance to drop it, but at some point during the Saturday. In the meantime, y'all know what it is, man. Education for a new generation. Thank y'all for coming along every single week and paying attention, listening. We develop every week. Y'all see where this is going. But stay blessed, stay healthy, do all the right things. Y'all go get vaccinated up if you haven't been vaccinated up already. Mask up if you have to mask up. Just do all of that right stuff. Don't play around with that stuff. The stuff is still serious, and I'm trying to leave the UK. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need a third lockdown.
Yeah, really.
No, facts. We don't need that.
No, but that Indian variant is really
I know.
Like,
so everybody do your thing. But in any case, hey, in case anybody was unsure or had any doubts, Black Lives been matter, Black Lives still matter, Black Lives will matter. That's just what it is over here. That's what it's always going to be. Anytime anybody disagrees, I'll see you no time never. In the meantime, thank you very much. Greatly said. You were awesome. Much appreciated. Kareem,
to bless you with my presence.
I mean, we appreciate it. Kareem, much love to you. Thank you for being there in the background as ever. Missy, we apologize for like a lengthy seminar. I know you got mad editing to do now, but good luck with that. But yeah, love to everybody. We'll catch you on next week, Monday. Peace.
Bye, guys.
We out, man.